Have you ever asked yourself why you're so tired even when you're not doing much? Why your mind feels heavy, your chest tight, your soul drained, like you're carrying a weight that has no shape but all the power to hold you down? It's not the job, it's not the people, it's not even the challenges, it's that you care too much about what they think, about how you look, about whether you're good enough in a world that's constantly shifting the goalpost, that silent pressure, that invisible judgment, that constant need to be liked, accepted, validated. It's killing your peace from the inside out. You were never supposed to live this way, walking on eggshells, shrinking yourself to fit in, editing your truth just to be accepted by people who don't even know the real you. You keep checking your words, your actions, your decisions, hoping someone will give you permission to feel okay. But here's the truth. The more you care about things that don't matter, the more you lose the parts of yourself that do. Every time you say yes when you mean no, every time you silence your voice to avoid discomfort, every time you put others first out of fear, not love, you lose a piece of your strength. And day by day, that strength turns into stress, anxiety, confusion, and you begin to wonder why everything feels like it's falling apart. The world told you that caring deeply makes you good, but no one told you that over-caring makes you exhausted. It makes you question your worth. It makes you doubt your path. And worst of all, it keeps you stuck. Stuck in cycles of people-pleasing, in relationships that drain you, in jobs that don't value you, in habits that kill your spark. You keep pouring into everyone else, hoping someone will finally see you. But the one person who truly needs your attention, your energy, your loyalty, is you. What if you stopped caring about being liked and started caring about being free? What if you stopped begging for approval and started building your own self-worth? What if, just for today, you stopped letting the world define who you are and instead listened to that quiet voice inside you that's been screaming to be heard? That's the voice that will guide you home. That's the voice that knows your truth. And that's the voice you've been silencing for far too long. Stay with me, because everything changes when you stop caring in the wrong direction. This is not about shutting down your heart. It's about opening it fully, fiercely, and without apology. It's about letting go of fake pressure so you can step into real power. Because when you stop caring about the noise, the judgment, the opinions that don't serve you, something incredible happens. Your peace returns, your clarity sharpens, your strength rises, and everything that once felt like chaos finally starts to make sense. Don't run from this moment. Lean into it. You're about to remember who you are. The reason life feels so heavy isn't because you're weak, it's because you're carrying too much that was never yours to hold. The opinions, the expectations, the silent judgments, they all stack on your back like bricks. And still, you walk. Still you smile. Still you pretend everything is fine. But inside, you're drowning in thoughts that were never truly yours. You've built a prison out of trying to be perfect, trying to be enough, trying to be what everyone else needs. But the truth is brutal. You can't win a game where the rules change every time you start playing. And you will never feel free while you're still asking the world for permission to be yourself. The more you care about being accepted by others, the more you reject yourself. You give pieces of your soul to things that will never feed you. You try to impress people who aren't even watching. You lose sleep over conversations that others have already forgotten. You dress your pain in politeness. You bury your truth under fear. And the worst part, you start to believe that this is just life, that maybe this is how it's supposed to be. But deep down, you know that's a lie. You were born with fire. You were born with voice. You were born with the right to live boldly, not carefully. When you stop over-caring, you begin to see how much of your life has been a reaction instead of a choice. You were reacting to criticism, to pressure, to fear of being misunderstood. You were molding yourself into a version of you that felt safe, but it was never free. That's why everything felt wrong, no matter how much you achieved. Because no amount of external success can fill the emptiness that comes from abandoning your own truth. Real peace begins the moment you stop apologizing for who you are. When you stop watering down your energy just to make others comfortable. When you no longer twist yourself into shapes that fit into someone else's box. If you're always comfortable, when you are always safe, you are seldom nobody, when you are seldom protected by someone else's box. You realize that the chaos you once blamed on the outside was being fed by your inner need to be everything for everyone. Let that need go. Let that mask fall. Because the more you try to please the world, the more you lose your center, and the world will never hand you back your peace. It's something you have to take for yourself. Imagine the freedom of waking up and not needing to impress anyone. Not needing to explain your choices, not needing to shrink your dreams to fit someone else's comfort zone. That kind of freedom is not only possible, it's your birthright. And it begins the moment you decide that your peace matters more than their approval, that your truth is louder than their judgment, that your life belongs to you, not their expectations. Because when you stop caring about the wrong things, you make room for the right things to rise. And when they do, everything begins to align, everything begins to flow, everything starts to work out. There is a moment when everything shifts, not because something outside you changes, but because you finally release what you've been clinging to. The desperate need to control, the exhausting urge to be understood, the fear of being judged. You loosen your grip. You exhale, and for the first time, you allow things to be what they are without trying to twist them into what you wish they were. That's where strength begins, not in forcing life to bend to your will, but in letting go of everything that's been pulling you in 100 directions. That quiet surrender is not weakness, it's power. Pure, quiet, untouchable power. The more you try to manage how others see you, the more you lose sight of who you really are. You get so caught up in appearances, in trying to stay liked, approved, admired, that you forget your own reflection. You start to shrink your opinions. You hold back your truth. You nod when you want to speak. You smile when you want to scream. And with every small compromise, you train your mind to believe that your voice is dangerous, that your truth is too much, that your presence must be managed, edited, filtered to be accepted. That lie is heavy, and it's time to drop it. Letting go is not the same as giving up. It's choosing not to carry what's crushing you. It's choosing peace over panic, presence over perfection. When you stop caring about the outcome, you begin to trust the process. You start to see clearly what belongs in your life and what doesn't. You stop chasing people who treat you like an option. You stop proving yourself to those who never saw your worth. And most importantly, you stop waiting for permission to be happy. You take it. You own it. You live it. Without apology. People will misunderstand your silence. They'll question your distance. They'll say you've changed. Let them. Because when you stop explaining yourself, you start expanding. You grow into the version of you that no longer needs constant reassurance. That version isn't cold. It's clear. It's calm. It's rooted. You are no longer swayed by every opinion, every reaction, every storm that rises. You don't need to respond to every attack. You don't need to explain your worth. You just exist. Fully, peacefully, powerfully. Everything you've been looking for begins to find you. When you stop looking through someone else's lens. When you stop waiting for the right time, the right words, the right approval. Your life isn't meant to be lived in waiting. It's meant to be lived in truth. And the truth is simple. When you stop caring about the things that never mattered, the things that do begin to rise. Your energy aligns, your mind clears, the noise fades, and finally you begin to move, not with fear, not with pressure, but with purpose. And with that, everything starts to work out, not by accident, but because you finally stepped out of your own way. You don't need to disconnect from the world to find peace. You just need to disconnect from the noise inside you that tells you you're never enough. That internal voice, fed by comparison, guilt, and fear. The one that makes you question every step, every word, every move. It's not your voice. It's a script written by a world that benefits from your insecurity. Tear that script apart. Your peace does not come from being everything to everyone. It comes from being true to yourself, even if that truth makes others uncomfortable. You were taught that caring means control. That if you care enough, you can fix everything. That if you try harder, give more, please better, you'll be loved more deeply. But love built on exhaustion is not love. Respect earned through self-abandonment is not love. Respect earned through silence is not peace. You don't need to keep proving that you are worthy. You are worthy the moment you were born. But the more you chase validation, the further you run from your own center. There's freedom in realizing that you don't have to chase anything. The people who are meant to walk with you will never need to be convinced. The opportunities meant for you will never feel like battles. The life aligned with your spirit will never require you to become someone else to live it. When you stop caring about being chosen, you choose yourself. And from that place, you stop settling. You stop accepting crumbs. You stop living small. You've spent so much energy managing how others feel about you. You've softened your power to avoid being called too much. You've made yourself quiet so others wouldn't feel small. You sacrificed your truth so someone else could stay comfortable. And all of that effort left you empty. You were not made to dim your light to soothe the shadows in someone else. You were not made to exist as a watered-down version of your potential just to make people stay. You are allowed to be whole. You are allowed to walk away from what drains you. You are allowed to not care. And when you stop caring about being misunderstood, you finally begin to understand yourself. You realize that not everyone needs access to you. That protecting your energy is not selfish, it's sacred. That saying no is not rejection, it's redirection. You become someone who is no longer swayed by temporary storms, because your peace is not tied to outside approval anymore. It lives within you. Grounded. Unshakable. This is what happens when you stop caring about the wrong things. You start healing. You start hearing your own voice. You start creating from purpose, not pressure. You begin to show up with strength instead of stress. And in that space, things fall into place, not because you forced them to, but because you finally let go of what was never yours to carry. And now, finally, you're free to receive what was always meant for you. You are not here to be controlled by the weight of other people's opinions. You are not here to mold yourself into what the world thinks is acceptable. You are here to become unshakable in your truth. The moment you stop trying to convince others of your worth is the moment you truly begin to feel it. It doesn't come from applause. It doesn't come from being understood. It comes from knowing that your value is not negotiable. That no reaction, no silence, no rejection can touch the core of who you are. You are not here to be consumed. You are here to be complete. Caring about the wrong things strips you of your voice. It turns your power into hesitation. It turns your clarity into confusion. Every time you bend your truth to keep the peace, you invite a war inside yourself. You smile through pain, nod through disrespect, tolerate what should have been walked away from long ago. And slowly, your light dims, your spirit shrinks, your identity fades. You begin to feel like a stranger in your own life, not because you've changed, but because you've silenced a part of you that always knew better. That silence is not peace. It's a warning. And the longer you ignore it, the louder it gets in your soul. Peace isn't passive. It's earned through choice, choosing what to let go of, choosing what to protect, choosing where your energy goes and where it no longer belongs. You can't be everything to everyone and still be whole. You can't keep carrying people who won't walk with you. You can't continue building a life based on fear of judgment and expect to feel free. Freedom only comes when you stop seeking safety in the opinions of others. When you stop needing your path to make sense to anyone else but you. That's when the real life begins. The one that feels aligned. The one that reflects your truth. When you stop caring about being understood, you start speaking more honestly. You stop editing yourself for comfort. You stop apologizing for being strong, sensitive, quiet, loud, ambitious, peaceful, whatever form your truth takes. And you start owning it. Fully. Without needing applause, without needing agreement, without needing to explain why you no longer tolerate what drains you. Because now, your peace matters more than their comfort. Your clarity matters more than their confusion. Your purpose matters more than their expectations. The pressure to care about everything is the very thing blocking your clarity. You're not supposed to be overwhelmed. You're not supposed to be emotionally available to chaos. You're supposed to be selective with your energy, intentional with your time, rooted in your values. This is how everything starts working out, not when you finally meet everyone's standards, but when you finally rise into your own. When you cut the noise, when you release the fear, when you stop carrying what was never meant to be yours. That's when peace begins. That's when your life begins to rise. The moment you begin to detach from the noise is the moment you begin to hear your own clarity. Not everyone will understand your silence, and that's okay. You're not meant to be understood by people who haven't done the work to understand themselves. When you stop explaining your peace, you start protecting it. And when you protect your peace, everything around you shifts. The chaos that once seemed urgent fades into the background. The relationships that thrived on your confusion fall apart. What remains is pure, simple, and real. That's the power of emotional detachment. Not turning cold, but becoming clear. You are not obligated to carry what drains you. Your worth is not measured by your ability to endure what breaks you. There's strength in saying, "This is not mine to hold." There's power in choosing not to respond, not to react, not to explain. The energy you waste trying to manage other people's emotions is the energy you could be using to build the life you've always needed. You're not cold for letting go. You're focused. You're not selfish for choosing yourself. You're finally awake. Awake to what matters. Awake to what's real. Awake to the voice inside you that was never meant to be silenced. When you stop caring about proving yourself, you start creating from a deeper place. You no longer ask, "Will they like me?" You ask, "Does this feel true to me?" You stop performing and start living. You stop seeking permission and start walking in purpose. You stop breaking yourself into pieces just to make others feel whole. And in that space, your mind clears. Your heart opens. Your path becomes lighter. You feel it, the return of energy that was once tied up in things that never really mattered. There's nothing noble about burning out to be accepted. There's nothing brave about staying silent just to keep others comfortable. The real courage is in saying no when everything in you screams yes out of habit. The real strength is in walking away from what once defined you. You don't rise by clinging, you rise by releasing. You rise by saying, "I no longer need this to feel whole. I no longer need to chase, to beg, to bend." Everything you've been trying to force into place was never supposed to be forced. Life flows when you align with it, not when you grip it with fear. Peace doesn't scream. It whispers, and you can only hear it when you stop listening to everything else. You are not here to react to every opinion. You are here to choose what deserves your energy. Most things don't. Most people don't. Most problems dissolve the moment you stop feeding them your attention. The moment you let go, the world responds, not with chaos, but with order. not with loss, but with clarity. And when that clarity comes, you'll understand you were never falling apart. You were being rebuilt, one decision, one breath, one boundary at a time. You don't need to respond to everything that tries to pull you in. You don't owe your energy to anything that costs you your peace. There is nothing wrong with you for feeling tired of pretending, tired of explaining, tired of trying to be everywhere for everyone while silently abandoning yourself. The exhaustion isn't from doing too much, it's from caring too much about things that offer nothing in return. Approval, status, validation. The illusion of being in control. They promise fulfillment, but only deliver anxiety. You've been taught to hustle for your worth. Now it's time to stand in it. When you stop obsessing over how you're perceived, you finally meet the person behind the performance. You. The real you. The one who doesn't need to please, the one who doesn't need to prove, the one who exists fully, without filters or fear. That version of you doesn't chase love. It gives love, without condition. That version doesn't beg for opportunity. It creates space and lets alignment do the work. Because when you stop forcing life to happen, life starts working for you. Let go of the weight that was never yours. The need to be perfect. The need to be everything to everyone. The need to constantly defend your choices to people who only ever saw fragments of your truth. You don't need their permission. You don't need their applause. You need your own trust. Trust that walking away from noise is not weakness. Trust that letting go of control is not failure. Trust that peace is not found in being seen, it's found in seeing yourself clearly. Detachment is not indifference. It is emotional intelligence. It is presence without attachment, action without desperation, love without obsession. You begin to realize you can care deeply and still walk away. You can give your best and still let go of the outcome. You can stand in your power and refuse to be pulled into every storm that passes. Every situation doesn't deserve your involvement. Every comment doesn't require a reply. Every thought doesn't need your belief. Most of what drains you can disappear the moment you stop feeding it your attention. This is where you shift, when your silence becomes your shield, when your clarity becomes your strength, when your peace becomes your priority. Not everyone will understand you, and that is the point. You are no longer living for understanding, you're living for alignment. You're not here to fix broken systems, you're here to rise above them. You're not here to beg for love. You're here to become the kind of person who no longer questions their own worth. Under everything you thought you had to be. Now that you've stopped caring about the noise, the path is open. The weight is gone, the truth is clear, and the life you've been waiting for begins. Not when you're perfect, but when you're present. Not when you're accepted, but when you're authentic. You were never meant to live in reaction. You were meant to lead your own rhythm. But for too long, you've been responding to everything outside of you, to noise, to doubt, to pressure. You've been adjusting, adapting, shrinking, stretching, just to fit into spaces that never felt like home. That ends now. Because the moment you stop giving away your power to every situation, every emotion, every voice that demands a piece of you, you begin to take your life back. You stop being moved by fear. You stop being controlled by pressure. You become steady, rooted, whole. You've been conditioned to think that detachment is coldness, that if you stop caring about things, you'll lose your edge. But detachment is not about becoming numb. It's about becoming wise. It's the shift from chaos to calm, from desperation to direction. It's when your peace no longer depends on how things go, but on how you show up. Because you're not chasing anymore. You're not trying to manipulate outcomes or convince people to stay. You're focused, aligned, grounded in something deeper than circumstance. Detachment doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you love without losing yourself. It means you give without expectations, speak without needing to be agreed with, move without asking for approval. You release your grip on everything you can't control, and in that release, you find everything you were searching for. When you no longer crave constant validation, you realize how much of your identity was built on someone else's vision. Now you're building your own. Quietly, boldly, without apology. Every time you choose not to respond to negativity, you grow stronger. Every time you resist the urge to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, you reclaim your energy. And every time you walk away from what no longer aligns with your peace, you evolve. This is growth. Not loud, not dramatic, but powerful. It's found in the stillness, in the space between reaction and response, in the calm confidence of someone who knows who they are. You are not the thoughts that try to pull you back into anxiety. You are the awareness that sees them and lets them pass. You are not the emotions that rise and fall. You are the anchor beneath the surface. When you learn to sit with yourself without judgment, without performance, you awaken a strength that no external storm can touch. And from that space, everything begins to make sense. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Letting go is not the end, it's the beginning of freedom, of clarity, of a life built on presence instead of pressure. When you stop caring about things that drain your spirit, you start attracting things that fuel it. Better habits, better people, better opportunities. All flowing to the version of you that no longer chases, because you no longer need to. You've remembered who you are. You've returned to what matters. And now, everything begins to work out. Not by chance, but by alignment. Peace is not something you find by running from the world. Peace is something you create by refusing to be ruled by it. When you stop caring about how things appear and start focusing on how they feel, everything begins to shift. You no longer waste your energy on surface-level approval. You no longer chase temporary highs to escape your inner chaos. You stop needing to be everywhere, to know everything, to fix what was never yours to fix. You begin to breathe. Deeply. Fully. Without guilt. Without pretending. And in that breath, you begin again. Lighter. Clearer. Stronger. The old version of you cared too much about being enough for others. That version tried to control every outcome, worried constantly about being misunderstood, worked tirelessly to hold things together, even as you were falling apart inside. That version was exhausted, because it was never real. It was a performance, a reaction, a survival mechanism. But now, you see clearly. You don't need to be everything. You just need to be real. You don't need to impress. You just need to be true. That truth is your power. That truth is your freedom. When you let go of what you can't control, you give yourself space to grow. You stop resisting. You stop fighting what is. And in that surrender, life begins to support you. Not because it suddenly got easier, but because you finally stopped making it harder. You are no longer wasting energy. You are no longer attaching your worth to outcomes. You are no longer available for anything that costs your peace. And because of that, the right people, the right moments, the right decisions begin to flow with ease. Not forced, not begged for, aligned. You've spent enough time proving yourself to people who never really saw you. Now you're ready to be seen by yourself. And that kind of self-recognition can't be shaken. Because once you realize that your value isn't something others give you, but something you decide and embody, you become untouchable. Not in ego, in energy. You stop flinching. You stop explaining. You stop chasing closure in conversations that no longer deserve your voice. You don't need closure when you have clarity. You don't need to win every battle when you've already chosen peace. This is the shift. From reaction to intention. From anxiety to awareness. From force to flow. You are no longer tied to outcomes. You are driven by values. You are no longer addicted to control. You are grounded in trust. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to stay aligned. Stay awake. Stay rooted in what truly matters. When you release what no longer serves your spirit, you make room for what was always meant to stay. No resistance, no chasing, just space, clarity, and truth. And from that place, life responds, not with noise, but with harmony. Not with stress, but with stillness. This is how everything begins to work out. Because now, you finally believe you're worthy of the peace you used to fight for. You are not here to survive your own life, you are here to rise through it. And rising doesn't come from proving your strength to the world, it comes from deciding that your peace is more valuable than their approval, that your truth is more sacred than their opinions, that your direction is more important than their doubts. You don't need to ask the world for permission to be whole. You were already born with everything you need. The only thing you ever had to do was stop caring about the noise long enough to hear your own voice. The world teaches you to care about image, about status, about attention. But none of those things bring you home. None of them give you the feeling of waking up without dread, of going to sleep without regret. That kind of peace doesn't come from outside, it comes from within. And it begins when you stop performing, when you stop trying to be palatable, when you stop trying to be impressive and choose to be real. Because your power was never in how the world sees you, it was always in how deeply you're willing to see yourself. Every moment you waste worrying about what people might think is a moment you steal from your future. Every time you second-guess your worth to fit into someone else's expectation, you shrink your own life. But you don't have to live like that anymore. You don't have to carry the fear of being misunderstood. You don't have to edit your truth just to avoid conflict. You don't have to be smaller to be accepted. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to be aligned with yourself. Detachment is how you return to that alignment. It's the quiet decision that you no longer owe your energy to things that do not build you. You no longer react to what doesn't reflect your values. You no longer seek closure from people who never gave you clarity. You choose presence. You choose stillness. You choose to trust that what's meant for you will never require you to betray yourself. And what you outgrow will never feel like loss. It will feel like liberation. When you stop caring about the things that drain you, you begin to attract what fuels you. And this is how boundaries transform you when you free yourself from dependency upon unrealistic goals. You begin to attract what fuels you. When you stop obsessing over what's missing, you start noticing what's right. When you stop resisting reality, you begin to create it, not through force, not through fear, through intention, through peace, through presence, the right people, the right timing, the right answers. They all come not when you push harder, but when you finally stop pushing against yourself. Everything begins to work out when you stop believing the lie that you have to be someone else to be worthy. You never did. You never will. The more you return to yourself, the more the world around you shifts. Not because it changed, but because you finally did. And now, you are no longer moved by the noise, you are moved by purpose.